part 2. So what shifts aggregate demand? So whenever anything of the 4 components changes, like consumption spending, that's us, let's say taxes go down, that means disposable income goes up, meaning we can spend more money, so we're demanding more goods, so aggregate demand increases. Investment spending, government spending, and exports, so if anything changes here, aggregate demand shifts. Anything else shifts the short-run aggregate supply curve. For instance, if we give our workers more skills, that means they can produce more productively. Productivity goes up, therefore SRAS shifts to the right. Let's say we are expecting inflation to be high, so that would shift SRAS to the left because we want to produce more in the future when we can sell it for the higher prices. Production input costs, let's say including nominal wages, let's say nominal wages increase, that would shift SRAS to the left because it costs us more to pay for our workers, so we have to take those funds from other parts and allocate them to wages, and therefore we can produce less overall. Now, let's use this example again, where we were initially in a recessionary negative output gap. So what can we say? We have higher unemployment than the natural rate of unemployment. So LRPC, the Phillips curve, is basically the same as LAS. Here we're at the natural rate of unemployment or full employment. Remember that includes frictional and structural unemployment, not cyclical unemployment. That is caused by the business cycle. So whenever the actual rate of unemployment is greater than the natural rate of unemployment, that difference is the cyclical rate of unemployment. So now initially at this point we're here on the Phillips curve because the unemployment rate is greater than our natural rate. Okay, then we're increasing aggregate demand, let's say by an increase in government spending. Therefore, we're causing a movement up and along the SRPC. Because whenever AD increases, real GDP increases, the unemployment rate goes down because if we're producing more, we need more workers. Price level goes up, meaning we have higher inflation. That is also the short-term trade-off according to the Phillips curve. Whenever one goes down, the other goes up, and vice versa. But as you can see, the LRPC is vertical, and therefore is perfectly inelastic, and there is no trade-off in the long run between the inflation and unemployment rate. Sometimes we have specific values, so you would just label these on the side here, specific percentages. Otherwise, we're just going to put our dotted lines here. Now let's say SRAS increases because our workers are more productive now. That means real GDP increases, but price level decreases. Therefore, our inflation decreases. So what happens to the unemployment rate? That one also goes down. So SRAS shifting to the right cause an inverse relationship here, meaning SRPC shifts to the left. Okay? Because in order to show that we have a lower unemployment and inflation rate, we have to shift the whole thing to the left. So for the Phillips curve, it's always best to understand it if you go via the aggregate demand and aggregate supply graph. The only other thing that shifts the SRPC is inflationary expectations. So let's say we're expecting inflation to increase by 2%. So we're shifting the whole SRPC up by 2%. Okay? So now the only thing missing is our very basic supply and demand graph. You will probably not have to draw that one on the exam. The only thing is that you can have a question. So let's say here we have price and quantity, right? Price, quantity, supply, demand, our initial equilibrium. Let's say supply decreases and demand decreases. So what is going to happen? This will shift here. Now, lower supply means less quantity supplied and a higher price. Now, demand also means we have less quantity, right? Because people simply don't want as much, but it means lower prices. We don't know if both will shift by the same extent. So in this scenario, the price would increase. Now let's say supply is only decreased by this much, then our prices would decrease. Okay, and therefore price indeterminate, but quantity is definitely gonna decrease because both of these shifted down. This is also important when we have, let's say, an expansionary fiscal policy and expansionary monetary policy, because fiscal policy, remember, has a high interest rate, monetary a lower interest rate. So if both happen at the same time, the change in interest rate is indeterminate. So always analyze both individually and then see if they have the same results. So that would definitely be the case then, and if not, then the changes are indeterminate. So I hope this helps you, and if not, you know where to find me for any last minute questions. Otherwise, all the best on your AP exam. Sending you all positive vibes so that we can all pass that exam.